Thank you. Let me see if I can give you a little more information other than what you have on your sheets. Becky received a BA in psychology from Barnard College and her MBA from UCLA. And prior to becoming a healing practitioner, Becky was a marketing director at Chase. And so she came out of banking and will probably tell you a little bit more about this, but due to her own health issues, was looking into alternative modalities when antibiotics weren't working anymore to treat her Lyme disease. And she became a body talk practitioner, and she has studied Reiki and other healing modalities, and was looking for something deeper. And that's great. And kept looking deeper, and then all of a sudden started channeling the information that we received tonight. And I've known Becky, and I've been working with her for over a year now, and she would say to me, there's more coming in, because it would come to her and developed as she went along and learned more herself. So it's a fascinating modality that helps us uncover the blocks that we have to health and prosperity. And I'm sure that you'll enjoy the presentation. So help me welcome Becky Cohen.
Thank you, Loretta. Thank you, Amy. Thank you, everyone, for coming tonight. I'm very excited to be here. I'm very excited to be doing a demonstration. The reason that I think that we'll be here till 9:45 is I'm going to actually do a session, and a session for the whole group. And that usually takes about an hour. So I'm going to talk first, though, about the path to heal. The session I'm going to be doing is called the Path to Prosperity. It's a subset of the Path to Heal. So the goal of staying till the end of this 2-hour period is to open up everybody's prosperity in the room, and to even give mine a little boost too, because we're all here. There's no coincidences. Whoever showed up tonight, the session is going to be about you and me, and that's how it always works out. So who's ever here, thank you. I'm sure we've all been together sometime before. My story is kind of interesting, so I'll start there, as Loretta alluded to. So 10 years ago, I was a banker at JP Chase. I was in credit card marketing. I was making a lot of money. I was getting people into debt. I was always a little bit uncomfortable with it, but I was the person responsible for all those mailings that you get in the mail, 60 of them a month, and it actually works. Every 60 of them, there's a mathematical formula behind that to see exactly how many times we should target a single household in order to get a response. So that's what I did. I did the mathematical models behind who should be getting direct marketed for credit card mailings. And then I developed product for credit card. And there was part of it that was fun. I never felt completely fulfilled, but I was pretty good at it. And 10 years ago, I was healthy. And 10 years ago, I had a husband and 3 children, and my life was fine. More or less, I enjoyed my life. It was good. And then I started getting weird symptoms. And some of the symptoms I actually still have, but that started around 10 years ago. And they really drove me crazy. There are different vibrations in my body, different things like that. And I went on a quest to find out why. Because I'm an analyst. I was an analyst at the bank. Because I'm an analyst, I always wanted to go deeper, deeper, deeper. As Loretta said, there's more coming. I'm going deeper, deeper, deeper. I needed to get to the root of why. And I couldn't. And so that was my first stumbling block. It was very hard for me to accept that maybe there were things going on with me that I couldn't explain. And so for a very long time, that's really just where I sat with it. I finally got comfortable with the fact that there were things that I couldn't explain. But then I started to be able to explain these things. And that's when the big shift happened. And that was about 6 years ago. So about 6 years ago, I was sitting in my hammock. I got bit by a tick. I saw the tick the next day. I got a big red ring. So there was no mysteries about this. 4 days later, I went to the doctor. The doctor told me that the tick was big, and so therefore it could not be a Lyme tick. And I was like, oh, okay, it's not Lyme. So she actually gave me antibiotics to deal with the skin rash from the tick that were not effective for Lyme. I went on a trip to Scotland with my husband at the time. We came home, 3 weeks had passed, and I felt awful. So I went back to the doctor, I got a Lyme test. It was positive, and I did my 3 weeks course of antibiotics. And I worked with a couple different doctors, but the one that I worked with said, you know what, you should really only take antibiotics for 3 weeks. Anything more than that is just throwing stuff into your system. Don't do it anymore. Don't go to someone who says you need to be on antibiotics for 3 years. She said, explore whatever you want to explore, no more antibiotics. And I had already, through the couple years before with these odd sort of sensations I was having, started to explore a few different things to help me get better. One was neural emotional technique. It's a technique where one uses muscle testing to get to the root of somebody's issues on why they won't heal. And the first time I had that done to me, my body heated up. It was unbelievable, and I thought, okay, I have to pay attention to this. I wasn't spiritual, but I just knew something was happening in my body. I had to pay attention to it. I was getting these amazing insights from this chiropractor who did this technique, and I went to see him for a couple years. But at the time that I got bit by the tick, he had moved out of the state to go run a spiritual retreat in Maryland, and I never saw him again. So I was kind of on my own, and I was searching, and I was very sick, and I went out to California to visit my cousin with my 3 daughters, who runs a physical therapy practice in Northern California. And her practice had a lot of alternative practitioners in it. And so we didn't even really talk about it, but she set me up for 3 different things. One was a massage, one was acupuncture, and the third was body talk. And so I had had muscle testing before, applied kinesiology. You get yes, no's by testing a muscle. But I had never heard of this modality, body talk, that uses muscle testing to get to the root of issues. But I'm open, and I said, okay, I feel terrible. Whatever you can do to help me. And I spent an hour with this practitioner named Trish. And at the end of the hour, through muscle testing, she knew absolutely everything about me, and I gave her not a word of my health history. And I was blown away, and I had that same sensation again where my body heated up. It was like, take notice. We can talk to you. You can talk to your body. A practitioner can help you talk to your body. It can use muscle testing. It can utilize a protocol, and it can tell you exactly what's going on inside you. And with body talk, you link parts of the body. So you link the head to the heart. Perhaps through muscle testing, you figure out what it is that you have to link. Then you find out why maybe the head and the heart have not been communicating appropriately. And it could be an emotional issue. It could be a toxin. It could be an allergy. Anything could be getting in the way. But by asking your body through muscle testing and body talk, they call it asking your innate ability to heal. And we actually refer to it as innate. Okay, we're going to have a conversation with innate today. And we're going to muscle test, and we're going to find out what innate has to say about why you're not healing. And so body talk, I found it unbelievable. And so after I had this session, I was brought back to a past life, and that had never happened to me before. And I thought, okay, I can do this. I'm okay with this. It makes sense. I went back to my cousin's house, and we looked online to find a course because I was so interested. And I saw that there was one taking place in Lansdale, and there hadn't been any in Pennsylvania months before or months after. This was less than an hour from my house. It was 2 weeks in the future. I said, okay, I got to do this. So I went for the next 2 years and took every body talk course that I could find. I flew all over the country. I still had my good job. I was able to do this. I took everything, and I became an advanced body talk practitioner and also something called a parama practitioner, which is an advanced level of body talk. And actually, right now, still, I think I'm the only advanced body talk practitioner in Pennsylvania, although there are 10 or 12 other practitioners that I'm friendly with who do this modality. So about that same time that I was getting really into the body talk, I very abruptly lost my job. So I had gone from being a star at Chase to, we don't want you anymore. And boy, did those doors close on me. All these friends that I had for years who always said, you know, if you ever want to switch and move into my department, I'll take you. Doors just shut on me. They shut so hard, and I was fighting it. I was fighting it partially because a marriage had just as equally abruptly ended, maybe within weeks of me losing my job at Chase. And I'm thinking, I have to raise 3 daughters, and I need a good salary, and I have to fight this. I have to stay here. I have to be secure. I have to find a job within the company, and it simply wasn't happening. There were some options, but it just became so clear to me that I'm not listening, that I'm not supposed to be here anymore, that I have a gift. And if I'm spending all my time getting people into debt with credit card offers, I'm not using my gift. For 20 years or however long I was there, it was okay, but I'm not supposed to be there anymore. And so I took a big risk and allowed I took my package, got paid for a little time, and allowed that all to happen. And I was like, okay, I can do this. I have something that I love. I don't really have a practice yet, but I love it, and I can see what happens. So I was all settling down into being a body talk practitioner, and I have a studio in my home, and I have an outside stairway that I built, and this was going to be great. I could manifest this practice. It was easy. I knew what I was doing, but alas, it didn't go that way. Because every time I had a client in my office, and I would muscle test through the body talk protocol, I would get to, so someone would be lying on my massage table and I would be lifting a muscle, and Body Talk has a protocol with like 25 nodes to direct you what kind of healing the person needs. And Body Talk is an equal opportunity modality in that there is a node on the bottom that says other modalities. And I kept getting it. I would muscle test and I would get other modalities. I would get other modalities. Now in the meantime, I had studied Reiki, I'd studied healing touch, I had friends that were doctors, friends that were all sorts of energy practitioners, and I said, okay, so where do I send this person? I want the business, but where do I send them? And I would say, I muscle test Reiki, no. Healing touch, no. Send them to the doctor, they need a therapist, no. I finally started asking different questions. Where is this modality? Well, it's going to come into you. And I got this all through muscle testing my clients. I was trying to study to be a instructor of Body Talk. And every time, and I had to do like 30 documented sessions. And every time I had to do a documented sessions, I went right off that modality into something new. And it became pretty clear that this isn't what I was supposed to do. So once again, I had to relax and say, okay, stop fighting this. Let's just go with it. Let's just have faith. Let's just trust that if I go with this, that all will be well. In the meantime, I had been working with somebody else, and we had sort of started creating something together called Key Steps. And about a year into this process in which that thing was pretty alive, she said to me, no, we're not supposed to do this anymore. This is her talking, I'm supposed to go out and find out the key to enlightenment. She was supposed to do that. And I was very upset because this was my livelihood, this thing that we had created together for a year. And no, again, this was being taken away from me. And she was going to go find the key to enlightenment. And I was very upset, and I went to bed that night, and I woke up the next morning having been awoken in my sleep. I didn't wake up the next morning. I woke up an hour later, and then 2 hours later, and then 3 hours later. This was not anxiety waking me up. This was me being shoved awake. I'd be like this, and I'd go back to sleep, like this again. And so this happened 2 weeks in a row, every single night. And I was so exhausted, and I finally realized that someone was trying to get a message into me. And I said, okay, I'll listen. Just let me sleep. I promise you I'll listen. And I woke up maybe 2 weeks later, and I realized that I was being given the keys to enlightenment. And they were 3 very easy statements. The first one is being completely aligned with the statement, I am enthusiastically myself at all times. Okay, I'm enthusiastically myself at all times. Sounds easy, but it's not. Second one, I trust all good things come to me. So once I'm enthusiastically myself at all times, all good things come to me. And the third one, it opens up our ability to unconditionally give and receive love. So those three statements were given to me. I'm enthusiastically myself at all times. Then I trust all good things come to me. And 3, I unconditionally give and receive love. And I went, wow, it really is this simple. It's not, but it is. And I said, okay, I want to be enthusiastically myself at all times, but I'm not. Why not? What am I afraid of? So I just first started exploring that philosophically. Why is it so hard for me to be enthusiastically myself at all times? I'll give you an example. I was just telling Loretta this, that I didn't know who I channeled. I did not know until, we're now 2.5 years into the path to heal. I did not know until 2 days ago. I just knew I was channeling. I'm channeling Isis. I had no idea. Had you asked me 2.5 years ago, I knew that Isis was, I used to jokingly say Isis is our sponsor. I knew that much. I didn't know, though, who I was channeling. Had you asked the banker that was married to a very conservative man, at least spiritually, with 3 young girls, who was from a very Jewish family, and if I had to come clean and say, I'm channeling Isis, I couldn't have done it. I just simply couldn't have done it. 2.5 years later, 2 days ago, after starting my class with my 9th and 10th student, I was finally given that information. And not only that, before every session now, I have to use this eye. Oh, I took it out again. This is the Isis eye. And I have to do a figure 8 over my client or over me so that Isis energy can flow into my session. And even in the last 2 days, my sessions have become more miraculous than they were prior to that. So now we welcome Isis in here with us. But that is why it is so hard to be enthusiastically yourself at all times. Because we don't want our family to think we're crazy. We don't want our family to stop loving us. And so we don't do it. And I didn't accept that information 2.5 years ago because it was sounded so cuckoo. But now I know it sounds so right and so beautiful. And I know from my reading over the last 2 years that Isis has keys to manifestation. She's holding them. Keys and techniques and all sorts of little beautiful things that I've been given in the last 2 years. And so I've realized that this is spectacularly special. I've known for a long time that I myself could not have done this. It is spectacularly special. Now, I'm not one of these people. I don't do what you do. I don't sit and give a lecture in the voice of another person. I've often wanted to do that. It doesn't work for me that way. Everything I receive gets coordinated with my human self and my human needs for healing. And so everybody always says, you know, Becky, this is about healing you. And that's really it. Like, once I'm healed, then the rest of you, it's going to be easy for you. And that's really true. So it's about healing me, my issues, my health issues, my financial issues, my heart that was broken, all of those things. It was about healing all of that. So it is me. So it's not just Isis. It's Isis and it's me. And it had to be given to me with my background, my health issues, my fears. We were the perfect combination to do this. And so what happens to me is in the morning, I wake up with a feeling, or I've had a dream. It's usually not as clear as a direct sentence. It's me going with my feeling. I do a lot of work very early in the morning, 6, 7 in the morning. All my students know that all my emails come at like 6:30 a.m. because that's when I'm doing all my work. And because I'm so still clued in to what was going on all night long. And luckily I don't get shaken awake. Unless I'm really not paying attention, then every once in a while it's like, okay, and then I know I have to really listen up. So that really all started 2 years ago, June. And in the first 6 months after that occurred, and in the meantime, I had gone for a family vacation to Yosemite with, and I ran into a cousin-in-law, Kelly Green, and she was fascinated with what I did. And she is a graphic artist. And so she told me that if I gave her some healing sessions, she would do a logo for me. And that's where our beautiful, beautiful partnership started. And so everything that I do is very beautiful thanks to Kelly. I see these images and symbols. My daughter Anna sees these images and symbols. And my cousin Kelly sees these images and symbols. And we work together to create all the images that are the path to heal. So in the next 6 months, what came about for me was this path. And this is the protocol that I muscle test through to give a healing session. And you can see, and you know what, I will pass it around, but you can see that there are all sorts of signs and symbols on this. I mean, one of them, this spiral, Kelly had been doodling her whole life. She had no idea why. That's the kind of thing that happens to me. Or somebody shows up in my life and shows me a picture of something. Or my daughter who just loves to go through Google Images and says, Mom, this is interesting, take this. And we start with something like that. And we've come up with this path. And we muscle test through this path to get to one's healing issues. And I will talk about it for a few more minutes here, but I'll pass that around. The other thing I'll pass around is this book. So over the next 2 years, what came out was this book. You can see it's all very, very pretty. And I'm not an artist. So the fact that my healing modality took the form of this very artistic, beautiful thing has also just been, it's been lovely. It's been such a gift. So I'll pass it around this way. I'll need these back when I do the session, so don't walk off with them, otherwise there'll be no session. So this process started. And something else that had happened to me during this time period is I spent a lot of time reading Abraham. And I believed in the law of attraction with every cell in my body. And yet, I couldn't manifest anything. So I was meditating, and I had a lot of time on my hands. I had lost my job, my business wasn't taking off yet. I was creating this. I spent all this time meditating, and then I started to get these messages. We've got the mind that's meditating, and we've got the subconscious mind that doesn't want any of this to happen. Why is my subconscious mind such a pain? Why, when I know more than anything, I want my business to take off, I want to have lots of clients, I want to be really happy, I want to be in love, I wanted all these things. Why? When I knew, I was totally aligned with these desires. I understood my desires. I even understood that I should be a healer. Why wasn't anything happening? And I realized that's what my life's work was about, to remove those blocks so that I could manifest with ease. And so that's really what the Path to Heal does. It removes the blocks so that I can manifest with ease. And the way one manifests with ease is to own one's heart's desires, which is being the same as being enthusiastically oneself. And the Path to Prosperity session that I'll do later truly talks about owning one's heart's desires. And then once we do, we are entitled to abundance. The word entitlement in the Path to Heal is a good word. We own who we are. We own our heart's desires. We are entitled to abundance. So any feeling, I actually did a session recently on a woman that really truly believed that anything beyond her basic needs were greedy. So I said, well, then how do you define what's beyond your basic needs? You know, is having the whipped cream on the ice cream, is that where you go from need to want? Or maybe the ice cream is a want. I don't know. So it's an exercise that's not valuable. The only exercise that's valuable in this sense is getting in touch with your heart's desires. So what happened to me as I was developing the Path to Heal, it's very interesting that you talked about dimensions, is that I did that for 6 months, the path that I passed around. And then after that, something new started to come in. I was exhausted, but I went with it. And I called it the second level. And I called it that for 2 or 3 weeks. And then I realized it's not a level, it's a dimension. And then, thanks to my friend Loretta over here, something new started to come in and it had all this psychic stuff in it. You needed tarot cards in order to do it, this dimension, and it was all very fascinating and a little bit foreign to me. I had done Loretta's radio show. After the radio show, she called me back and said, when can I take a class? She came into my life, and together we developed the third dimension. This time I only had 3 students. Loretta was one of them. And I was teaching them. I was calling them, okay, you have to come back for another weekend. I have another dimension. And Loretta finally said, can't you group some of these dimensions together so I don't have to come every weekend and spend every weekend with you? I got other things to do. So I started to figure out how to group some of the stuff together. When I got to about the 6th dimension, somebody came into my life who had been studying something else. And she said, have you ever read this thing? That there's not 7 chakras, there's 13 chakras. They start at 0 and they go to 12. And I'm like, no, there's only 7. And she's now, there's 13. And because I started to realize that my dimensions were aligned with the chakras. And at this point, I thought I could stop at 6 dimensions. But I realized I had to start at the 0 dimension, which I call Genesis, which is a standalone system that one can take a 5-hour course and learn to do a big piece of what the Path to Heal does. And then I had to make it go all the way up there to the 12th dimension. 12th dimension is all about ascension. And so now you come to a class of mine, you come to a session of mine, and we may go into any one of these dimensions. And I don't quite understand what that means. One of my new students asked me yesterday, what does it mean to go into the 7th dimension? I don't quite get it. I know what the activity we have to do is when we go into the 7th dimension, but I don't necessarily know. I know what it feels like when I open the dimension, but I don't fully know. So my closest ability is to line it with the chakra. The work associated with the 7th dimension is associated with the 7th chakra, which is the chakra that helps us remember God. So the work around the 7th dimension is about remembering that we are God and our relationship with ourselves, really. So that's essentially how it worked. And the whole time that this was happening, then after that, the Path to Prosperity started opening up for me, and it's a subset. It's a different group of work. But it is part of the Path to Heal. And in the Path to Prosperity, what I'll do tonight is open up the prosperity of everybody in the room by opening up the senses. And when I open up the senses, I open up everyone's. If your senses are closed, you do not see the signs and synchronicities in your life. You just can't. If the senses are open, then the signs and synchronicities are totally obvious. And from there, you know exactly what you need to do to help you fulfill your heart's desires and make your heart sing. So how can I do a session on 30 people? Because we've all are here for a reason, and there's going to be some karmic force that has brought each and every one of us here tonight. And so there's something that together we haven't solved yet, we haven't balanced yet in our life. And by coming here right now, tonight, during the session, we will balance that karma out for everybody in the room, and it will bring everybody in the room one step closer to prosperity. And that's how it works. Something that Loretta and I realized while working on the cruise concept is that everybody who's going to come on that cruise, because I will do a Path to Prosperity session on the 200 people that register for the cruise, and that those 200 people also have some karmic thing to work out. So if you find yourself on the cruise next summer, which I hope you do because it's going to be really fun, if you find yourself there, you'll know that it wasn't a coincidence. This is something you needed to do for many reasons, but one of these reasons is to have the release some of this karma. And it's one thing I'm going to do. There's another, I'm going to stop in 2 minutes for a Q&A, but I wanted to tell everybody that I teach a bunch of classes, and some of my classes are for practitioners, and I just started a practitioner training, but there is time to jump on board for that training, and then I'll be, because I just had 1 weekend of study, so I can catch people up before the next class. If anyone's interested, I have 10 practitioners. It is something you have to interview with me for, but anybody theoretically can learn to be a Path to Heal practitioner. And then I have lots of other classes. So I have the Fourth Dimension as a standalone class. I'm teaching that on November 17th. That is the most of my dimensions get to the root of a healing issue, and you know exactly why you're suffering. It gives a lot of personal insight. The Fourth Dimension class that I'm teaching on November 17th doesn't. It just brings in this beautiful healing energy, and it gives very little insight, but it's very good for healing animals and communities, and it uses these Kabbalah tuning forks. And it uses all the crystals that I use too. So one of the things that has happened and that I've just been able to sort of articulate is that so many modalities have gifted a sliver of me to incorporate into the Path to Heal, to make it incorporate what that modality wants to give to me to make this a complete system. So Kabbalah, shamanism, angel card readings, sacred geometry, sacred essences. I could name a lot more. I don't have the list on me right now. But all of them gifted me a piece of themselves to create this perfect, beautiful puzzle that truly helps people get to the root of their healing issues. So the Path to Heal works at the level of a healing issue. You come to me with a pain in your side, with a diagnosed condition, and I get to the root of why it's easier for you to hold on to that condition than to let it go. And it guides me to a place where I can understand where you're not giving yourself enough self-love. And so once you come for a session, I actually get rid of, it might take more than one session, but a physical issue or another negative circumstance like not enough money or not getting along with people, by finding why you're holding on to that, because we create our own realities. So on some level, we've created the reality of holding on to whatever that is. And so that's essentially what I do. I work with people who are physically ill with anything, young people, old people, and get to the root of why they're holding on to that and give them a tremendous amount of personal insight, and then they can release it. So do we have some questions?
So you do with animals too?
With animals, it's very interesting. I do a lot of healing on animals, but animals are about being perfectly healthy, and they're about unconditional love. So the only reason that an animal that you've had is not well is because on some subconscious level, very, very subconscious, very, very buried, it's easier for you to have them in this state than be well. And so I end up doing a tremendous amount of healing on the human, and so that they can release whatever it is that's keeping this negative circumstance in their animal. But in that one class, that Fourth Dimension class that I have, we don't learn all the reasons. We just bring the animal and the human closer to God. The animal already knows that its role is to be at one with God and their humans and the universe. So the animals don't need to understand their emotions. We don't need to have a conversation with the animal. We just need to have a conversation with your human or just bring them both closer to God. So it's very effective for animals. And I have my own dog who came to me 8 months ago with lots of nervousness and healing issues. We adopted him, and he's taught me so much about why he's holding on to that. And so together we've been helping him release that. And right now he's, I would say he's still maybe 10% anxious, and he used to be 90% anxious. So he keeps teaching me more and more and more every day. So that's what I do with animals.
Becky, these symbols that you speak of and that are in here that you channel, do you draw them, project them, tap them in a similar way that you would rate the symbols?
Yes and no. I always use crystals and tuning forks. The symbol, the most important symbol in the path to heal, if anyone's holding the path, hold it up. It's this symbol that's on top of the path.
Okay, the flower.
The flower. It's called a infinity flower. It's also what we call within the path to heal the heaven on earth symbol. And that symbol was one of the first ones that was given to me. And what I do to invoke pure love is take my tuning fork and I spin in a certain way. And then I take the 3 main crystals of the path to heal, rose quartz, amethyst, and aquamarine, and I do a flower over the heart usually. So I've just given everybody in the room pure love. So it's very, mostly my clients are oblivious to the fact that I'm doing all this stuff over them. But it's not like in Reiki you can do it in your head or you can do it like this. We do it right out there. And the reason that we use symbols is because symbols are programmed. So even if the practitioner's in a crappy mood and has had a bad day, there's certain things we do to ground them. There's certain things